The scent of lemon polish and old parchment was Wine's world. Her days were a meticulous dance between dusting ancient tapestries and scrubbing the stubborn stains from the flagstones of Eldoria Castle. She was a ghost in the gilded halls, unseen and unheard, and that was exactly how she liked it. Court politics, the whispers of betrayal, the endless preening of the nobility, it all felt like a stage play she had no desire to watch, let alone participate in. Her deepest ambition was a quiet life, perhaps a small cottage outside the city walls, far from the suffocating grandeur. Today, however, her routine led her to a rarely used wing, a forgotten library rumored to hold the castle's most obscure texts. Lord Kell, the royal historian, had requested a thorough cleaning after discovering a misplaced, dust-laden volume. Why, and usually enjoyed these solitary tasks, the quiet comfort of forgotten knowledge. But a strange hum resonated through the air today, a subtle vibration that tingled at her fingertips. She pushed open a heavy oak door, revealing a small, circular chamber at the library's heart, even more neglected than the rest. Dust motes danced in the lone shaft of light, filtering through a high, grimy window, a pedestal in the center. Upon it rested not a book, but a shimmering obsidian-like stone, veined with threads of what looked like solidified starlight. It pulsed faintly internal glow. YN's breath hitched. She'd never seen anything like it. It felt ancient, powerful, yet strangely inviting. Driven by an irresistible curiosity, she reached out, her fingers brushing against its smooth, cool surface. At that very moment, a shadow detached itself from the deeper gloom of the chamber's entrance. King Jimin had sought refuge. The weight of his crown, the endless petitions, the suffocating expectations, they were all pressing down on him. He was young for a king, inheriting the throne tragically early, and the solitude of leadership often drew him to the castle's quietest corners. He had heard whispers of a forgotten relic, a legend of Eldoria, and in his exhaustion had come searching for a moment of peace, perhaps even a sliver of the past's wisdom. He saw her then, a wisp of a woman, a maid with her sleeves rolled up, her hand reaching for the very object he had sought. A strange possessiveness, a primal instinct surged through him.
Stop.
He commanded, his voice echoing too loudly in the small space. Wine startled, her hand recoiling, but it was too late. As Jimin stepped forward, reaching out to prevent her from touching it further, his own fingertips, warmed by his hurried pace, landed directly atop hers on the cool, dark surface of the stone. A searing of light erupted, blinding them both. A resonant thrum vibrated through the chamber, shaking the very foundations of the castle. An invisible force slammed into their chests, knocking the air from their lungs. Wyan cried out a sharp, involuntary sound. Jimin felt a jolt, not just physical, but deep within his very core, as if an unseen thread had been stitched through his soul, connecting it irrevocably to hers. When the light faded, they were left gasping, hands still pressed together on the now dimmed stone. YN snatched her hand back as if burned, stumbling away. Jimin, though equally stunned, felt a sudden, inexplicable emptiness as her touch broke, an unfamiliar ache in his chest.
What was that?
YN whispered, her eyes wide with a mixture of fear and confusion. She looked at him not with the deference usually afforded to royalty, but with raw panic. Jimin, recovering his composure, straightened.
I believe we have awoken something.
He looked at the stone, then back at her, a flicker of something new, something in his gaze. He felt a peculiar clarity as if a veil had been lifted, and he saw her, not just a maid, but a person, raw and real. The heavy door creaked open, and Lord Kale's stern face peered in, followed by 2 guards. Kale's gaze fell upon the stone, then upon Jimin and YN, his eyes widening in horror.
The Heartstone of Eridor.
He gasped, rushing forward.
Your Majesty, what have you done?
Jimin, still reeling, managed.
We touched it, Kale. Both of us.
Kale's face paled.
Simultaneously? by the ancient law stone has bound you.
He touched the relic, now dormant and cold.
This is an artifact of the old ways, Your Majesty. It forges an unbreakable bond, a soul contract between two individuals. You are tethered by magic, by fate, by necessity.
YA's knees buckled.
Bound? What does that mean?
Her voice was small. Kale turned to her, a grim resignation in his eyes.
It means, young woman, that your fates are intertwined. Your emotions will echo in one another. Your well-being will reflect the others. To separate for too long will cause anguish. To be near will bring comfort. This bond is permanent. It is absolute.
YN stared at the king, then at Kale, then back at the king. Her simple life, her carefully constructed anonymity had just been shattered by a single accidental touch.
No.
She breathed, shaking her head.
No, this can't be happening. I'm a maid. He's the king.
Jimin watched her, a strange mix of regret and fascination stirring within him. He felt her panic, a cold dread seeping his own being, and it was concerning, unsettling, yet undeniably real.
Kale,
He said, his voice firm despite the internal turmoil.
explain the specifics.
Over the next few hours in the royal study, the reality of their situation descended like a shroud. Kale, poring over ancient texts, detailed the history of the Heartstone. It was a relic from a time when magic was raw and untamed, designed to unite powerful rulers with their most trusted advisors, or in rare ill-fated circumstances, with a stranger. The contract was called the Soul Tether of Eridor.
You will feel each other's presence always.
Kale explained, his voice grave.
Joy will be amplified, sorrow shared. Prolonged separation will lead to a wasting sickness, a slow decay of both body and mind, as your souls yearn for their lost counterpart. Proximity, however, will bring a sense of wholeness, perhaps even euphoria.
YN listened, her hands clenched into fists in her lap, her face a mask of disbelief.
This is madness.
She whispered, mostly to herself.
I don't want this. I don't want to be bound to anyone, and let alone the king.
Jimin watched her carefully. He felt her defiance, a spark of stubborn independence that intrigued him. He also felt the growing discomfort within himself, a subtle unease that began the moment she expressed distress.
And what are the benefits, Kale?
He asked, his gaze never leaving Y.
Beyond the shared emotions, Your Majesty, the tether grants a unique understanding. You will intuit each other's needs, perhaps even thoughts. It is a bond of absolute truth, forging an unbreakable alliance, prison depending on the will of those bound.
Kale cleared his throat, avoiding the king's intense stare.
In essence, you are each other's anchor.
Is more like it.
YN muttered under her breath, a flash of angrily superseding her fear. Jimin heard it, felt the sharpness of her resentment. His jaw tightened.
YN?
He said, using her name for the first time, the unfamiliar sound feeling strangely intimate on his.
This is not a matter of want, it is a matter of fact. And as king, I must ensure that Eldoria remains stable. If our bond affects my rule or creates a liability, it must be addressed.
His voice was calm, but underneath YN felt a tremor of something powerful, something akin to a predator assessing its prey.
And how do you propose to address it, Your Majesty?
She challenged, meeting his gaze.
Marry your maid? The court would riot, my family would disown me, and your political alliances would crumble.
Jimin leaned back in his chair, his eyes dark and speculative.
Perhaps, or perhaps the bond is simply a bond. It does not dictate marriage.
But even as he said it, he felt a strange sense of disappointment.
However, you cannot remain a maid. The discomfort of separation, Kel explained, begins subtly. You must be close.
Close?
YN scoffed.
I clean chambers, Your Majesty. I certainly can't be close to the king.
You will be given a position that allows it.
Jimin stated, a finality in his tone that brooked no argument.
Perhaps my personal aide, or a royal seamstress, someone who has reason to be in my proximity daily.
The thought of being permanently tethered to this man, this powerful, aloof king, made YN feel trapped. Her simple hopes, her dreams of freedom were being crushed under the weight of an ancient, accidental magic. Yet when she looked at Jimin, truly looked, she saw not just the king, but a man burdened, his eyes holding a depth of loneliness she instinctively understood. And in a way she felt the strange pull Kyle described, a quiet hum beneath her skin that settled when their gazes met and rippled with unease when they broke. The next few days were a blur of unwilling adjustments. YN was elevated to the status of Royal Archivist Assistant, a position invented solely to keep her near the king's study and his private chambers. Her old life, her old friends amongst the staff were suddenly distant. Ilara, her closest friend, looked at her with a mixture of awe and pity.
A royal archivist assistant? Why, Anne, you're practically a noble now.
Ilara whispered excitedly one evening. YN sighed, running a hand through her hair.
It is a gilded cage, Ilara. I'm just not sure I prefer it.
The bond was insidious. At first it was subtle, a sudden flash of irritation from Jimin when a courtier droned on too long mirrored in YN's own chest. A pang of expected satisfaction when she completed a task well and felt a ripple of pride from the king even if he wasn't in the room. Then it deepened. She began to dream of him, vivid, unsettling dreams where their souls intertwined in a cosmic dance under a sky of starlight. She woke with a heavy heart or a strange longing, depending on the dream. Jimin too felt the bond intensely. Dismiss course abruptly when YN felt overwhelmed or find himself seeking her out in the archives, a silent, almost unconscious pull drawing him to her. He found himself thinking about her, not as a subject or an object of a magical inconvenience, but as the other half of an equation he hadn't known he was missing. He felt her quiet defiance, her yearning for simpler days, and a strange protectiveness began to bloom within him. One afternoon, in the quiet of the archives, Jimin found her meticulously cataloging scrolls. He watched her for a moment, unseen, appreciating the quiet diligence with which she worked. Her brows were furrowed in concentration, a stray strand of hair falling across her cheek. He felt a sudden, inexplicable urge to brush it away. He cleared his throat, and YN jumped, dropping a scroll.
Your Majesty.
Exclaimed, her cheeks flushing.
My apologies.
Jimin said, though his eyes held a hint of amusement.
You seemed engrossed.
Just trying to make sense of Lord Kale's filing system.
She grumbled, picking up the scroll.
It's less a system and more a haphazard collection of ancient ramblings.
She winced, realizing she'd spoken freely.
Forgive me, Your Majesty.
Jimin chuckled, a sound YN rarely heard and one that sent an unexpected warmth through her.
No, you speak the truth. KL is more enthusiast than archivist. Tell me, YN, do you truly despise this arrangement so much?
He moved closer, leaning against a towering bookshelf, his dark eyes fixed on her. The proximity intensified the bond, a quiet thrumming beneath her skin, a familiar, unsettling comfort. YN straightened, her hand instinctively going to her chest, where the pressure intensified.
Your Majesty, with all due respect, I was content. I had my routine, my peace. Now I am scrutinized, whispered about. I am a walking and I feel imprisoned.
Her voice trembled with raw emotion. She didn't mean to be so forthright, but the bond seemed to strip away her usual servant's deference, forcing her true feelings to the surface. Jimin felt her pain, a sharp wrench in his own gut. He pushed off the bookshelf, closing the distance between them. He reached out, his hand on her cheek, then lowered it, clenching his fist.
And you think I am not?
He asked, his voice low, intense.
Do you think I chose this? To be bound to a stranger? To feel your every flicker of emotion? To be drawn to your very presence as if by an invisible chain?
His gaze was searing, dark, and utterly captivating. YN found herself unable to look away, caught in the intensity of his stare.
You are the king.
She whispered, her voice barely audible.
You have power.
And you believe power makes this easier?
He retorted, a bitter edge to his tone.
It makes it infinitely more complicated. Every decision I make now is viewed through the lens of this predicament. My advisors question my judgment. Courtiers like Lady Seraphina already see you as a commoner who has dared to touch what is theirs.
YN flinched at the mention of Lady Seraphina, a noblewoman who had made her for YN painfully clear.
Then release me.
She pleaded, her voice cracking.
Find a way to undo this.
Jimin shook his head, a muscle clenching in his jaw.
There is no way. Kale has searched every tome, consulted every sage. The soul tether of Eridor, we are chained, YN, and the more you resist, the more pain you will feel, and by extension so will I.
He stepped closer, invading her face until she could smell the subtle scent of his royal cologne, the warmth of his radiating towards her. The bond pulsed, a frantic, desperate beat between them.
Do you not feel it?
He murmured, his voice a silken whisper.
The pull, the quiet comfort when we are near, the profound understanding that passes between us without a single word?
He reached out slowly, tracing the line of her jaw. YN stiffened, a protest rising in her throat, but the bond sang a deep, resonant hum that silenced her. His thumb brushed over her cheek, sending shivers down her spine. His was firm, yet surprisingly gentle.
I feel it.
She confessed, her voice barely a breath. It was true. Despite her resistance, despite her fear, there was undeniable magnetism. A sense of peace settled over her in his presence that she hadn't felt since the bond was.
Good.
He said, his eyes darkening as they searched hers.
Because I feel it too, and I confess, YN, it is and a revelation. Never have I felt so truly seen, so truly connected to another soul, and never have I felt so utterly powerless in the face of fate.
His gaze dropped to her, and the air crackled with unspoken tension. The bond screamed for connection, for release. White heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic bird trapped in a cage. Her mind screamed separation, but her body leaned minutely towards him, drawn by the invisible threads.
This is wrong.
She whispered, but the words lacked conviction, lost in the overwhelming tide of sensation.
Is it?
He countered, his voice rough, his fingers now tangling in her hair, tilting her head back slightly.
Or is it simply inevitable? We are bound, YN, is to fight our very nature now, and I confess, I am tired of fighting.
He leaned in slowly, allowing her every opportunity to pull away, but she couldn't. Her eyes fluttered shut as a whisper's soft touch sent a jolt of pure light through her. The bond flared, a brilliant of shared emotion, his longing, her fear, his curiosity, her hesitant desire. It wasn't a sweet nor a gentle one. It was a born of ancient magic, of undeniable fate, of a possessive desperation that was both dark and deep and demanding, and YN found herself responding with a ferocity she hadn't known she possessed. Her hands unbidden fisted in the fabric of his royal doublet, clinging to him as if he were only anchor in a tumultuous sea. Silent conversation of souls intertwining, all pretenses, all social divides, all rational thought dissolved in the face of the overwhelming connection. This was not a choice, it was a surrender to an irresistible force. He tasted of power and solitude, she of lemon polish and forgotten dreams, and together like destiny. When they finally broke apart, gasping for breath, their foreheads rested against each other. Jimin's eyes were smoldering, dark pools reflecting the raw intensity of the moment. YN's cheeks were flushed, her entire being trembling.
This changes everything.
She managed to whisper, her voice hoarse. Jimin's thumb caressed her cheek, possessive, undeniable.
It changes nothing, YN. It simply reveals what already is. We are bound. We begin to truly understand what that means.
He pulled back slightly, his grip on her firm.
You are no longer just a maid, YN, and I am no longer just your king. We are two halves of an unwilling whole, and the world will simply have to adapt.
He led her out of the archives, his hand firmly clutching hers. The unspoken declaration hung heavy in the air, echoing through the silence of Eldoria Castle. The innocent maid and the burdened king now undeniably stepped into a future rife and a love forged not by choice but by a powerful, ancient, and utterly inescapable magic. Their dark romance, a consequence of fate, had just begun.